Hello and welcome to another episode of Backbone Zone. My name is Tyson jones-peni, and before I get started, I just want to let you guys know about the Real Deal Rider Awards that we're running at ACJAM this year. So ACJAM 2024 is November 1st through the 3rd, and we are having the first yearly annual Real Deal Rider Awards. Think of this as the Australian Nora Cup. We're just trying to excite people about Australian riding, so you can go on and vote for your favourite transition rider, trail rider, street rider, video part, racer and women's rider. I think that it's going to be really cool to give away some awards at ACJAM for this, so make sure that you go and vote at backbonebmx.com/RDR, so the RDR Awards, Real Deal Rider. Today's episode, I have Kieran Walsh on the show. Now, you might be thinking, who is Kieran Walsh? And basically, I have been into boxing since late 2018. I started boxing, did that for a few years, and then had a bit of a hiatus from it. And then in 2023, got into Muay Thai, and was lucky enough to walk into Kieran's gym. So Kieran is the owner of Muay U, which is a Muay Thai gym in Canberra that only trains Muay Thai. And one of the things that I am just blown away with Muay Thai and boxing, but in particular Muay Thai, is just how similar it is to BMX. You know, I think of BMX as this thing that is much more than just being good on a bike. It's got to do with, you know, the lifestyle and culture behind the sport, or whatever it is that you want to call it. So BMX is very similar to Muay Thai. Muay Thai has this thing where, you know, there's a lot of people that for them it's a lifelong pursuit. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're looking to compete or they're looking to, you know, be the best of the world at it. And that's very much like BMX. Something that almost every time I was going in there, I'd go away from it thinking about how I can take what Muay Thai has and apply it to the BMX world. So this conversation is really more me trying to learn from Kieran about what it is that makes Muay Thai special, and then thinking about how I can apply that to BMX. And I thought that why not have that conversation and let everyone hear it. I also really like that Kieran has his opinions on BMX from someone who's completely in the outside. It's kind of refreshing to have that very new conversation with someone who's willing to talk about it. And as far as Muay Thai goes, Kieran's one of the most reputable guys in Australia. You know, I know that he's got fighters that are fighting in huge promotions. RWS is one of them. One championship you may have heard of if you follow combat sports. So, yeah, Kieran's a really good guy. It was awesome to speak to him, and I'm really excited to do podcasts like these. It was something that, you know, I'm always not a little bit sure if people are going to receive it, but part of this podcast is just to explore and try and go on this journey, try and get a little bit deeper than just your average, oh wow, you did a good trick here, that's really cool. I really want to explore and try and learn new things and apply it to BMX, and sometimes you've got to look outside of BMX to do that. So I really thank Kieran for jumping onto this podcast. It was really insightful, and again, you know, not a BMX podcast typically, but if you open your mind and listen to some of the things that he has to say, I think it's really, really insightful and really cool to get his perspective on things. If you wanted to go and check out Kieran's gym or anything that Kieran does, please go to his Instagram, which is Kieran Muay U on Instagram, or Muay U Canberra. So jump on there, best place to start. Anyway, on to the episode. Hope you enjoy it. See you, Kieran. Thanks for coming on the Backbone Zone, mate. Appreciate it a lot.
Sure.
For those that don't know you, and I'm sure that there'd be a lot of people in my audience, BMX audience, that would be like, what the fuck is this dude doing on here? So I would probably want you to just sort of explain who you are, and then I can go into why I've got you on today.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So my name is Kieran Walsh. I own a Muay Thai gym in Canberra called Muay U, which I was lucky to have you and your significant other, or better half, as we say sometimes, training there. So yeah, Muay U is a Muay Thai gym in Canberra. I've done Muay Thai for about 22, 23 years. About 6 years ago, actually coming up on the month. We're in July, so August, September. In September, that will mark 6 years of Muay U.
Oh, sick.
And in that time, we've grown from, yeah, obviously just starting off through to being the biggest Muay Thai gym in Canberra, and also the most successful Muay Thai gym as far as professional like fighting is concerned. And probably one of the better known gyms in Australia, and we're known internationally and around the world. And I've had some crazy stories of people that have like seen someone wearing a Muay U shirt in like Borneo and crazy places like this. So that's pretty surreal and cool. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's who I am and that's what I do.
Yeah, sick, man. Yeah, well, I got to admit, walking into Muay U, it was super professional, like it was super sick, but very welcoming at the same time. So I guess the reason why I wanted to have you on is, as someone who is new typically to the world of like combat sports, Muay Thai, and a lifelong BMX rider, it was actually kind of mind blowing to me walking somewhere like that and being shown that it's so similar to BMX. So like that's kind of why I wanted to have you on, because you don't know anything about BMX unless maybe you did it when you were a little kid or
I know
something.
nothing, but not
And
much at
and
all,
that's
bro.
what is exciting to me, because we're kind of comparing this apples to oranges thing, but at the same time, I'll start with this, right? The biggest thing that I heard, because since I've gotten into Muay Thai, I've been like obsessed with it in this like new obsession, right? Like I'm 38 this year. I've been riding BMX for literally since I was like 10 years old, so my whole life. And coming into a new obsession, you start to try and find ideas here, there, and everywhere. I've been listening to your podcast, the Muay Thai Hour, as well as Chok Muay Chats with Joe Comerford.
Joey. Yeah.
And one of the things that you both have said is that Muay Thai is quite hard to define. Like it's almost like this multifaceted, not quite a sport, kind of an art form, definitely a lifestyle. You kind of embody it. And that's where I'm coming from with this whole idea, right? Because BMX is very, very similar in that it's kind of like more than a sport. It's definitely not just a sport. It's very focused on maybe the lifestyle and the art form and things like that. And I guess what I wanted to kind of garner some knowledge and insight from you today was just talking about how you see Muay Thai is, and what what you love about Muay Thai, and maybe what some things could change about it. So maybe just start with that first question, like what is Muay Thai to you?
Well, I mean, Muay Thai for me, really, much like probably BMX is to you, is like the probably the largest portion of my life, in the sense of I've got family and I've got everything else, but most of most of my life revolves around Muay Thai, and so that for me is pretty significant. It's almost like a bit of an anchor. I know who I am outside of Muay Thai, and I think that's really important for anyone that does like sport or exist in a subculture. I think you have to know who you are if that gets taken away. You can't just rely on it like a crutch. But for me, Muay Thai it's a big part of my life, and it's something that it means a lot to me because I've invested so much time into it, and it's taught me, man, much like I'm sure BMX has taught you, like you I've never ridden BMX, but I've fallen off bikes before, and it teaches you when you're falling off a bike, right? Or even when you go to do something that seems a little bit scary or a bit daunting. And much like I'm sure there is in BMX, you have guys who might be nervous or a bit wary to do something. The same happens in Muay Thai, but then on the complete opposite side of things, you've got like daredevils that'll just do anything and they're not afraid to fight. They're not afraid to get stuck into it. And I don't think there's a subculture where you don't have that, people on both sides of the spectrum because it's just human nature. And so for me, I when I was younger, I was a lot more anxious and like pretty nervous kid, and Muay Thai forced me to challenge myself on those things and forced me to do things that I probably wouldn't been comfortable with. And I guess deep down, I was maybe the person I didn't think I was, because at the end of the day, look at where I am now. I could have easily walked away from it and not done these things and not had these challenges, but I did, and now yeah. I mean, it's helped mold me into the person that I am today. And I mean, the house that I'm sitting in now, I owe to Muay Thai, and I mean, my relationship I owe to Muay Thai. Like there's so many things in your life that you can pull back to it, right? But I think when you're human and when you go through life, you've always got something like that. But it's been such a big center point of my life, and there's, yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like what we're with Muay Thai and with BMX, and I think we're just going to use those words interchangeably, like really, because I don't think there's very many. While you said that there are subcultures everywhere that sort of does those things that get you out of your shell and whatnot, I feel like they're both very similar. Like it's an individual pursuit. And it's kind of a little bit dangerous in a sense. Like it's not like you're going and playing chess and whatnot, but although you kind of are, I guess. When was it for you that you started to appreciate Muay Thai as more than just rocking up and learning kicks and punches? And that's where I'm trying to get at, is like, I've heard you speak a lot more about there's a lot more to Muay Thai than just, it's not just kickboxing with elbows type thing. Explain that to me.
Well, Muay Thai is just so unique, and few people really understand it, much like a lot of other niche sports, in that there's not as many people doing it. And so it's super unique. But with the world of Muay Thai especially, you have so many other things that intersect it. You have Muay Thai, which is the sport, but then there's a lot of culture around it. And in certain respects, if you have that sort of belief pattern, there's certain elements of like spirituality. And then there's even down to, mannerisms and jokes. And there are jokes that you can crack in a Muay Thai circle, which 99% of the population would never understand. They've got no idea what you're talking about, but it would make someone piss themselves laughing in Thai boxing, And so that Muay Thai is so unique because there's so many elements of it, and it teaches you, if you choose to go down the path of the spiritual side of what is related to Muay Thai, because Muay Thai in its essence isn't necessarily spiritual. It's still a sport, but being from Thailand, there's obviously like certain cultural aspects and stuff that are wrapped into it. And if you choose to go down that route, in Thailand, the primary religion is Buddhism. And if it is easy to kind of like go into that realm, because a lot of fighters will go to a temple and be blessed before they fight, or they might wear certain amulets, an image of Buddha, monks, what have you, superstitions around good luck and bad luck and certain things that we do. And so that side of it has really helped me too, because like I'm like, I would say I'm a Buddhist, and that actually wasn't through Muay Thai, but has probably been strengthened through Muay Thai from people that I know and people that I've met and places that I've been to. And that's a big part that has taught me a lot in life. It's taught me a lot about not having attachment. It's taught me a lot about, the impermanence of life and all of these kind of things. And so they're the parts for me personally that I owe so much to Thai boxing. Like they're the parts that have affected my life the most. And they're also the parts that make, Muay Thai so unique and just so like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to over word, but
No, I think it's super interesting, and this is kind of, again, like where I'm at with seeing this, and there's a lot of inspiration. I feel like if you get stuck in a bit of an echo chamber, like say if I just never looked outside of BMX ever, and I just never garnered any sort of inspiration from anywhere, then you don't really evolve as a person. I feel like that's just in life. You don't really do that, you know? You're like, if you were just like the same person you were when you were 6 and you only ever had the inspiration that you had then, you would never like grow as a person. And I feel like there's a lot of cool shit that happens through learning something like Muay Thai, being introduced to it at least.
but it's cool. It's cool to see as well because, you know, you look at something like BMX and maybe skating or another like extreme sport kind of thing, and you can see so many similarities. It's funny, even though they're not related, in the sense of like, if I look at a subculture like BMX or I look at you or whatever, I'm like, oh, we both have heaps of tattoos. Oh, we both have, you know, there's things that we share.
Yeah, totally.
Which it's funny that like we have no crossover, but there are so many things that we share and can share that's just like, it's always amusing to me, you know, because if I look at it, if I look at like, you know, BMX and I see, yeah, guys and girls acting a particular way, or hey, heaps of more of these guys have, you know, there's way more people that I see BMX or skating or whatever with tattoos than my mates who work in the government.
Yeah, for sure.
That subculture's way closer.
Yeah,
Or when I
totally.
look at some of the personalities of people that are involved in sports like yours and sports like ours, they're way more relatable to me than my friends who work in the government.
Yeah.
Like my friends who work in the government are amazing people, but you know, guys and girls like you can kind of understand us a bit better, and you understand because, and especially, and I can imagine with BMX, like there's a huge population of amount of people who do Muay Thai because they love it, but the majority of them don't get to make a living from Muay Thai. They don't get to, like, how many guys are riding BMX and that's all they do full time versus the amount of people who actually like, you know, who are actually in the sport. It's such a small, I mean, I don't have to know the sport to probably know it's a pretty small percentage. And the same goes for Muay Thai with fighters and even guys who participate in it recreationally. But when we talk about fighters, you know, everyone wants to be the equivalent of like fucking some guy in the X Games who's like famous as shit and makes money from endorsements and does everything. But for every one of him, there's 1,000 guys who are just doing it and trying to make anything.
Yeah.
Trying to do any part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Well, that's what I think makes things like what we're speaking about so similar. You know, there's a huge lifestyle aspect to BMX. You know, BMX is the type of thing. I mean, like myself and you're probably very similar. It's like I loved BMX so much, but I wasn't the best BMX rider in the planet, so I'm not going to create a career out of that. But you can't help but be like, oh, well, what's another way that I can do this? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, what's a way that I can stick in this and be around BMX for longer?
And people like you and I are still outliers. Like we're lucky enough.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah, but most people aren't getting to that stage, you know, because
Correct.
It's a whole nother risk in and of itself. Being a business owner and running a business and having to fend for yourself is completely different world.
Completely, yeah. I think as you know, one of the things that I'd like to try to instill in riders is that it's like it is a lifestyle that's kind of for life, you know, and one of the things that I like about combat sports is that they it seems like there's a lot of fans, you know what I mean? Like you might be a recreational you might recreationally go to a Muay Thai gym, and even if it's just for fitness, but you may also just really like watching the fights. And I think that that's really interesting. What I wanted to ask you about that was just like, where do you see that coming from in terms of like, is it just that Muay Thai is much better structured in terms of performance and trying to get to that higher level? Does that make sense? So like there's a lot of fighters that seem, it's like, I'm going to try and get to this like regional, you know, champion, then up and up and up and up and up. And
yeah, don't know, man, because if I look at it, say like if I look at BMX, like to me, BMX is further along than Muay Thai is.
Hmm.
Because if I look at it, I see BMX tournaments and how known people are and things like the X Games and things like even acceptance into the Olympics and demo sports and stuff like that. I feel like you're further ahead.
Mm.
But I guess the thing that separates us is uh I mean, I don't know how all the different styles of competition in BMX work, but let's take any form of cycling. You can't just win 10 races and then you're straight away competing for some amazing title. I don't assume.
Yeah.
Whereas in Muay Thai, it works like that because the competition aspect, I guess, has a lot more weighted onto it.
Hmm.
Whereas you might have to, race or compete or whatever it might be 10 or 20 or 30 times. What we achieve in one 5 round fight or five-round fights is huge
Mm.
because a lot of fighters, guys, a lot of fighters, if they've had 50 fights, or say they've had 20 or 30 professional fights, they've been around, man. They're fighters.
Yeah.
Imagine if you raced 20 times and you were the shit, like you've been around for a while. That's pretty cool. Like I can only imagine that would be a pretty big difference. And so I feel like if you stick it out in Muay Thai, it's kind of easier to get up and up and up because there's so much weighted on like one single moment.
Mm.
But on the flip side of it, and the thing that for us is the difference to participation is imagine if you had to and your listeners had to every time they wanted to compete, they had to find a rider of the same against one rider of the same gender, of the same weight within 2.5 kilos, with the same bike on the same day at the same.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it's hard. And so imagine if you had guys and girls that, were riding and competing, but they had to do that. Fuck you,
Mm.
maybe the participation would be lower.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I actually have the opposite idea. I've been thinking about how, and it's really funny that you say that we're further along because I think that for let's just say martial arts in general, but we'll stick to Muay Thai. There's Muay Thai gyms around, right? And obviously they're to various levels. But you can go there and you can learn Muay Thai and then you can choose to become a fighter and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. With BMX, it's like there's just no organization at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's starting to become a little bit of like there's coaches around like I coach riders and whatnot, but what I could see is this world where when BMX comes into the mainstream, because it's about to be in the Olympics, right? So it's on next week.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it's super sick. But a lot of general public are like, oh man, I'm watching 10 riders. They're all kind of doing like similar stuff. I don't really know what I'm watching. Some kids would be like, wow, this is sick. But imagine if it was just like 2 riders and they were head to head. Like I kind of see a world where that could be a thing.
That for me is like, well, for anyone that's listening who's like experienced at BMX, I mean, I'm sure there is, but I'm just saying it from an outsider looking in is like, well, then what's stopping you if you're good at teaching? Because that's what we do in Muay Thai. If we can't fight anymore, we teach.
Mm.
And I've seen it more recently with some of my mates who have had kids who have taken their kids to like literal skating schools, like to teach them how to skate.
Mm.
Back in mind, what you went down to like the Belconnen skate park and
Yeah.
just like there was another kid who was a bit more experienced than you and you just watched him.
Yeah, that's it.
But we live in a world now where, especially with social media and everything like that, we can make businesses out of anything.
Mm.
And so for me, maybe it's just like, well, maybe there's not enough people because I think if you're good at something, you can sell it if you know how to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's that many people that you can run a shop selling equipment, I don't see a reason why there can't be enough having like some sort of training business. I don't know. Like I don't know the industry
Yeah,
enough,
for
but that's
sure.
from an outsider looking in.
Yeah, yeah.
like, well, hey, we've done it in Muay Thai, and yeah, it is different,
Hmm.
but I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
there, you know.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, if there's a lot of people that listen to this that are coaches, it'd be pretty cool to
I
see
think it'd
that.
be cool, man, because I think like for me, I've got to do the thing that I love is my job.
Mm,
And I was just like, right, I want to do Muay Thai as a job. How can I do that?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
just like figured out a way to do it.
yeah.
And
That's cool.
Muay Thai is not, it's not like we have this wildly mass accepted sport that everyone knows and does. Like it's not, it's very much a fringe sport.
Mm,
Like you say, you're further ahead. You know, people will see BMX in the Olympics decades before they see Muay Thai in the Olympics, if ever. So sure, people know what Muay Thai or kickboxing is, but man, everyone knows what a fucking BMX is. Like, really, if you said, oh, BMX or a bike or whatever, I don't know, you'd be pretty hard pressed to find someone that doesn't know what it is. So I think, like, yeah, man, if anyone's listening, I say just fucking try to do something, man. Just go for it.
that's pretty
What's the words
cool. That's cool advice. Yeah, that's cool advice, man. I was actually going to ask you about like what it was that made you decide to become a coach and open a
Well,
gym and things like that.
for me, the competition side of Muay Thai is the like the part that I love the most.
Mm,
And so you know, fighting, much like for you, competing. And so I wanted to do that. But the same way that not many fighters can live completely off their purses, some are lucky enough that they can, but a lot of them can't. It was like, well, what's going to pay the bills? It's going to be people that want to learn Muay Thai but don't necessarily want to fight.
hmm.
So, you know, maybe much like people that want to learn to ride a bike or something, but aren't going to go race in the Tour de France. So, okay, well, I'm going to teach it then. And I want to make it a sport where I want to try and make it more popular. And
Mm,
so that's why I called it Muay U. The U stands for university. And it was based off of, I based it and branded it around American colleges, like the collegiate system in America, where you're a diehard fan of your college up until the day that you die. Like
mm,
if you went to like A&M or you went to UCLA or you went to whatever, you support that football team from your graduation at 22, 21 years old through to your deathbed at 85. And I wanted my plan was I want people to love Muay Thai like that. And I want
mm,
people to support the gym like that. And you've been in our gym, it's like I want people who like you're not going to fight. Your wife is not going to fight, but I want you to share in the same successes and like you're part of the team and want
mm.
to support those guys. You know, one of my Davey or Max or Diandra or Gabrielle or one of these people are going to go and fight. When they win, like I want you to be pumped about it. Or I want you to wear your t-shirt the same way you might wear your footy jersey out in public.
Yeah, yeah.
That for me was why that for me was what I had to do for it and why I wanted to do it. And it was just, yeah, mate, just grow Muay Thai, man. Grow Muay Thai. I don't, you know, yeah, just grow it.
Dude, this is kind of what I was hoping that you would say, and I think that a lot of people that are listening to this that are BMX riders are going to be like a little bit like, oh, this is a bit abrasive, but um, this is my opinion, is that I think that BMX needs to be more celebratory of performance. That's one thing with BMX, right? Is like we're very like tall poppy syndrome almost. Like it shouldn't be cool to compete. It shouldn't be, like the dudes that are,
Right.
the two riders that are in the Olympics, the two Australian riders. There's one dude, Logan Martin. He's literally like just dominant. He just dominates every event that he goes to. He won the first Olympics. Hopefully he wins this one. But, he's kind of in this thing where with hardcore BMX riders, they don't really,
Yeah. And
they're a little bit like off him. And that's the same with
okay.
everything. But what I like about things like Muay Thai is it's like you want to see the person win. Like I want to see Max win that welterweight tournament, like every
Sure.
fight he does.
We have tall. I think tall poppy syndrome is just an Aussie thing. I don't think it's a
Sure.
specific sport. We have it as well. I think every sport has it, but like, and I don't waste my time. And I have to say to my fighters sometimes, I don't waste my time. I don't worry about the opinions of others
Mm.
because usually the people that speak down on you are the ones that aren't doing as well. And like I'm not going to for a second pretend to understand BMX or the culture behind BMX. Like just for me as a human being, is I want to see people like achieve and succeed and do well. Seeing people fail does nothing for me.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And I don't also understand, I think sure, there's a fine line between being arrogant and talking too much and celebrating your success. I understand that,
Mm.
but we do have to celebrate something.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, if BMX is going to be in the Olympics, I'd rather an Aussie win the medal than a Kiwi, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah, for
why
sure.
not?
Yeah,
But I love
totally.
everyone, man. I don't care. The Kiwi wins the gold medal, mad legend. But like, fuck yeah, man. It's like, okay, Australia, let's go, man. That's
Mm.
cool. It's part of our team. It's part of our country. Like, hey, sick, good work, man. And again, I don't understand it, so I could be saying something wrong or whatever. But this is just me as like just a human and a person. I'm like, man, I want people to win. I want people to succeed and achieve. And unless if they're a shit person, I don't give a fuck about them. Like, whatever, I failed. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
if not, why not?
Yeah,
You
totally.
guys, like, it's not, it doesn't kill anyone. It doesn't kill you to support someone.
Mm,
It doesn't hurt you to support someone. Like, supporting people is free.
for sure.
It makes you feel good. Like I feel good when I help people. If like when you help people without the expectation of return, to me, it's like it makes you feel so good about yourself because you're
100%.
helping someone get a leg up. Like
Yeah.
it costs nothing to fucking share someone's Facebook post or share someone's Instagram post or
Yeah, I
like
agree, man. Yeah, totally. I think that I think it has something to do maybe with commercialism or whatnot. Like people are scared that that's tied to success. Like once you become, it's once you be, it's like the fighter, right? That's like
sellout, right?
the
Like
starving
saying
artist.
yeah,
That's
like a
right.
sellout. But it's like if someone comes along and says, "Well, I'm going to pay you $1 million, and all you got to do is ride BMX," you're fucking crazy if you don't take it. Like, but are you like to? But is it selling out? Like, what's selling? I don't know. I don't. Again,
Mm,
I don't understand what happens with it in your culture, so I don't know. But I can guarantee you, 100% of my fighters, if someone came along and was like, "I'll give you $1 million a year just to fight and train,"
mm.
yeah, tick. They're
Yeah.
all doing it, man.
Yeah,
They're
for sure.
all doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it might sound outlandish, but on the other token, it's like, well, if you would say no, I would just be curious as to why.
Mm.
And if you're listening to this and you don't agree with me, like actually genuinely send me a message and at Kieran U on Instagram, tell me why, because I want to know. Like I like understanding the way that people think, and this is just the opinion of one guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, man, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. I think that's what is inspiring about it all. Like coming from another culture, subculture of BMX, and then coming into martial arts, like into Muay Thai, and then walking to Muay U, and everyone's like, they want to wear the Max shirt. Like it's
Yeah.
sick. Like it's dope. Um, to sort of switch it up a bit, and I think this is potentially maybe where BMX kind of has a bit of a sticking point with performance and coolness, or like liking someone for their riding, is
Mm.
style. And
Yeah.
one thing that I hear you say is you want to teach good Muay Thai, and I just
Mm.
wanted to hear what your opinion on, doesn't have to be in relation with BMX, but what that means to you is teaching good Muay Thai.
Yeah, Muay Thai is one of those things that you can tell if it's beautiful or it's ugly. Maybe not if you haven't trained it, but to give you an example, a guy who it could be exciting to see a guy just run forward and boom, 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 punch, 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 punch. Exciting and hey, look at him go, but it's not beautiful. To us, it doesn't look nice. There's no technicality in it. Whereas for us, it's like someone who has good balance, can pick their shots, knows how to use their power. That's beautiful Muay Thai. And you can, and I can see it because I've been in like the striking world for 20 something years, and people are often surprised when it's like, when we tell them that their favorite MMA fighter can't kick for shit or can't knee or can't elbow. People are often surprised. And it's like, because they think they're at the pinnacle, and we look at them and they're like, no, they're not good.
Mm,
That's not any fault of their own. It's like a triathlete. You're not the best marathon runner in the world. You have to do every sport. It's the same for MMA. But we know what it looks like. And for me, that's really important, because that is keeping the sport what it is.
hmm
Is like beautiful and nice to watch and technical.
hmm
And it's not for everyone, but it's like super important for me. And you could be the one who wants to charge forward and go crazy and just try to knock the other guy out, but is and that, don't get me wrong, that gets bums on seats, like obviously, but it's not for me. Like beautiful Muay Thai can be just as dangerous and look just as impressive.
Mm. Is that the difference between what I've heard being referred to as entertainment Muay Thai versus
The
stadium Muay
diff-
Thai?
Entertainment Muay Thai is usually like 3 round Muay Thai as
Sure.
opposed to 5 round Muay Thai, and it's scored slightly differently. Like they'll usually score more on, oh, not all the time, but sometimes on the one, like the person who goes forward the most and applies the most pressure. Whereas we'll say in like traditional Muay Thai or stadium Muay Thai, you can win going backwards, going forwards, going left, going right. The direction isn't, it's about the damage that you cause and create. And
Sure.
so sometimes that's what can get lost in our sport. I'm sure, like, if I went to one of your competitions, I would not know what I'm looking for, man. And I
Mm.
might see a rider do something. I'm like, that guy was sick. And you might be like, nah.
Yeah.
And that happens in Muay Thai too. People go to
Mm.
me, oh, and I go, nah, nah, nah,
That's
no good.
wow.
No
That's
good.
really interesting.
And so, yeah,
Do,
entertainment is, yeah, slightly different. And yeah, you would call it, yeah, it's like a variation of the sport sort of thing. It looks like the same sport to everyone. If you don't know it, if you
mm.
don't know Muay Thai, it looks like the same sport. I'm sure you have the same, but if you're in it, you know what the difference is that you're looking at.
Yeah, for sure. I think hearing that when you kept talking about teaching good Muay Thai and things like that, I think that is something that maybe the pinnacle of BMX riding is sort of lost its vision for, because when you it's very trick focused, like it's very much like trick focused. And I
Mm.
think that would be the same thing as like some sort of volume like charging type rider,
Yeah.
because whoever can fit the most kicks and punches in 3 minutes is the one that wins. Whereas I would like to see in BMX competitions a little bit more value put on style and technique. I think
Mm.
that's a big thing.
Well, here is what, here is the time when I side maybe with the people who don't want to see certain sports get bigger or whatever. Like, say you have it in BMX, is like, I don't want Muay Thai to be in the Olympics,
Sure. Because it's a demo sport, isn't it?
because you every other sport for the most part, every other combat sport that goes into the Olympics changes.
Sure.
So if you watch like martial arts like Taekwondo and certain forms of karate and stuff used to be really cool, man.
Oh, right.
Now with the Olympics, it's like, oh fuck, what are we watching?
Yeah, wow.
Even wrestling is the same. They've taken stuff away, they've done this, and so I would understand if people haven't turned this podcast off in disgust for the hardcore guys that maybe agree with me. I understand for people who are like that.
mm,
I don't want it in the Olympics, and I don't think they're coming from a place of it's just because we don't want it to be bigger or something. I understand in that if it's because it might change. I don't want Muay Thai in the Olympics because I don't think it will be Muay Thai.
yeah, sure.
For me, it's not Muay Thai. The same way amateur boxing is not professional boxing. They're completely different
Yeah.
sports, and even an Olympic boxing has turned to shit as well. And
Mm,
so I don't want Muay Thai in the Olympics. I understand the people that do, and there's a real push to try and get it in there. I'm one of the people in the no camp because I think eventually it's just not going to be Muay Thai,
hmm
or it'll be Muay Thai by name but not by nature. The
Yeah,
same
sure.
way maybe it's BMX by name but not by nature. Like so
hmm
maybe the guy on the podium yeah, shit, not sure kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, that's really
That's my,
interesting, man.
yeah.
Is that mainly because, well, for those that have got no idea about Muay Thai, there's a lot that surrounds the act of Muay Thai. Is that part of it? Or do you think that the actual they might not allow like certain?
I think they might not allow certain things, or Muay Thai is very violent.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Like,
ferocious, man.
yeah, it can be really violent if people, if they're not, if people aren't listening, or they like go, if you're listening and you haven't really watched much Muay Thai, go say like something that's easily accessible, like RWS, Rajdamnern World Series, which one of my boys is fighting in at the moment, and just watch some fights and watch good. Like look for names that look like they're Thai, or don't not as many foreigner names. Like look for Thais and watch it. I can't see that being accepted by the Olympics.
Mm,
Especially not in today's day and age, man. With like, I don't want to sound, oh, fuck, I'm not that old. I'm in my 30s like you, but we are getting softer with certain things, right?
mm.
I just don't see, again, it would be amateur Muay Thai, so it would be padded, but even still, it can be violent. I just don't see it being accepted. I really don't. Like, I could see all of the combat sports just disappearing from the Olympics.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Yeah, I
Mm.
heard that. I actually heard that amateur boxing was
I
going
think it
from.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, you watch Taekwondo and karate now, it looks like my fucking little cousins play fighting, mate. No offense to them, but like it's not the same sport.
yeah, wow.
No, it's just not anymore. And it's just even the, and I really like watching judo and I like watching wrestling, but even they have both changed in the Olympics. The
Huh.
last Olympics, man, those the Tokyo ones, I remember watching some of the combat and I just thought, fuck, I just switched it to the weightlifting.
Yeah. Dude, the weightlifting is actually like quite.
My favorite, man. It's
Yeah,
like my favorite Olympic. Next to I enjoy swimming. I mean, all Aussies like watching
yeah,
swimming, like you just grow up with it. But I think probably that or like some of the track
yeah. The
events,
track stuff's cool.
like watching how fast guys can sprint are pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, man. That's pretty interesting. Like, because there's definitely there's two camps in BMX. There's definitely a yes and no with the Olympics. Some people just hate it. I think that for the most part, it's the same. It's just there's such a spectrum in BMX. Like there's the dudes that are super celebrated for their riding, and there's no fucking way that they can do even close to the level of trick. And I think that the trickery is very popular in that commercial aspect of BMX.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I was kind of interested or I was very interested to sort of hear about just Muay U and that you've kind of got a bit of a system in there
Mm.
with building up fighters and things like that. What do
Yeah.
you look for when you are going from, say I've walked into the gym
Mm.
and then like where do you keep an eye on people and then you tapping people on the shoulder to try and become a part of the fight team, or are you?
Yeah. Normally, I mean, probably much the same way. If someone came to you and walked in your shop and they've never ridden a bike in their life, or they have, but it was like a whatever,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hybrid mountain bike or something, and they're like, I want to go into the Olympics for BMX. You would probably be like, all right, man, how about you just start and then let's see how you go.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So usually the people that come into the gym that say, I want to fight, usually aren't the ones that fight
Mm,
because you need to like training for Muay Thai and doing Muay Thai is very hard at a competitive level. So you have to do it because you love it, not because you want the accolades.
mm-hmm.
And usually the most successful people that I know love it. It's not about, sure, along the way they have a goal of a world title and all that stuff. And I think that's important, but also they do it because they love it and they love the process and they love the journey. So I guess starting with that, I went off on a bit of a tangent. There are times when I will like, tap shot. A great example is Gabrielle, as Gabrielle. Um, she was, like a timid, quiet 18-year-old or 17-year-old. And she just trained all the time because she had nothing else to do. She would train with me in the morning, she would train with me at lunch, and she would train with me at night
Oh,
time.
yeah, right.
And and just over and over and over again. And I said to her one day, "Oh, I want you to train a fight. You should train a fight." She didn't want to do it, and I was like, "All right, cool. I'll ask you later. Next time, ask her again. Next time, ask her again." I'll go. I'll tell you, we're gonna have this conversation again, but I reckon you're gonna come to me, okay? And she was watching the fighters one night, and then she came to me and she was like, "Oh, can I train to fight?" And so sometimes there's people like that.
Mm.
Other times, and the majority of them are ones that I usually have an event or something similar where it's like if you want to train to fight, you got to tell me because that's the hardest part. People are scared to talk to me sometimes.
Mm.
You got to come and talk to me. That's like step number one because that's usually the most daunting thing for people is to like come and have a conversation with me about fighting, and then I've done a few different ways, but the way that we have at the moment is you then just come and train with the fighters. And that will just naturally weed some people out.
Yeah, for sure.
They either want to try and keep up or they don't.
Hmm.
And that's the system that we sort of have at the moment. And we weed a lot of people out sometimes and just go back to training in general because it's a completely different world. But, for example, we had maybe I probably brought in a group of 20 or something that wanted to, and I'm probably left with four
Mm.
that still wanted to, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um,
I can see from the outside looking in, well, doing the classes and then looking in at the fighter, I guess the tryout group, like, man, there's a lot of dedication
yeah,
and work
it's a
that has
different
to.
world, and man, it's a combat sport,
Mm.
like same way, BMX, fuck, you can there. I'm sure there are a lot of people have a gnarly injury or like stack pretty badly, and then they're like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah, for sure. There's
No more
definitely
for me.
that.
Or you've got the guys and girls that are just like, fuck, right, get back on, or like
Yeah, yeah.
take some Nurofen and like I'll see you tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. So then when you're talking from that level, you've become a fighter, and that seems to be your passion, right? Is like training
Yeah.
fighters at that level, the competitive level. Where, what is it that you go through as a coach? Are we talking like there's a lot of mental, it's a mental game, right? Like it seems like I personally feel like with BMX it's the same thing. It's half of it is practicing, right? Riding a lot,
Mm.
but a lot of it is like you are faced with like doing a particular trick over a particular obstacle.
Yeah.
It's not the physical thing. It's like the fuck, I gotta get myself to that.
Sure.
Do you do a lot of like mental preparation with your fighters? Like, how do you get them?
Honestly, not really.
Sure.
And the reason I say not really is because when you're first starting out, and even when you're first starting out as an amateur fighter, I don't want it to be too mentally taxing
Hmm.
in the sense that, I don't want you to try and think like you're Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather, or sure, the training is hard and everything, but the problem that I see a lot is that guys and girls will train really hard and be really dedicated, but they'll put so much pressure on themselves because to be a like quote unquote fighter, like fight is such a strong word in in like the English language, and fighting has such like a full-on connotation to it that people put so much pressure on themselves. When really, when you're an amateur fighter, it's not necessary. But when those guys and girls who do that then lose, when they lose or when they fall, so to speak, they fall really hard.
Mm.
It's just devastating to them. Whereas if you lose and you're pissed off and fuck, I should have done better or whatever. All right, cool. I'll be back at training on Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. So the mental side of it for me is just developed through action because you either do it or you don't.
Hmm.
And there are people who do need sports psychologists and need certain things, but there is a lot of stuff where it is very much a case of do or don't. If you have all of the right technical training and your coach has taught you properly, not standing on the edge of like a trick or something, calling you a pussy and telling you to go, I mean, like, have given you the right foundations and stuff, well, then it's up to you to do it or not.
Mm,
Like, I can't, I'm not going to make you, because if I have to force you too much, you're not going to be here in the long run.
mm,
I don't want to have to force you.
for
If
sure.
I've got to force you, it's like the writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
If I've got to force you to come to training, or I've got to, like, nah. So the mental part, not so much, because I think for me, you really do develop it through doing. But then there's certain things that I've learned as a coach, and I've learned this from coaches in other sports, not in Muay Thai, about things like language, things like changing the way that you speak, in the sense of like, if I do that to when I do that, say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And that's, to me, those kind of things are like really important changes. And they're for me the things that can have the biggest impact on your mental, as opposed to some of the other stuff that people focus on sometimes. Like, when I do this, not if I do this. When you win, not if I win. And that's not trying to create like a false sense of reality. It's just trying to get people to use positive language to themselves, not negative language. You got to use you and always focus on the positive. The biggest mistake that I see coaches make, and there's not been a sport where I've taught this where a coach hasn't gone, oh wow, that's really good, is, say, for example, if I was teaching you to punch and I said to you, if I said to you, don't drop your right hand, what instead I can say is keep your right hand up.
Mm,
The language is different and you focus on it differently. The same way, if you give a toddler a glass of milk, if you say don't drop it, they're so focused on it, they might drop it. But if you say, be careful with that, or hold on to that tight,
yeah,
giving them the positive language for it.
for
And
sure.
usually that for me has been a really big thing. Making changes like that for the mental, not, yeah, that's been a real big one.
Yeah, that's super good advice. I think like for riders, a lot of people get over. They think too much about that way far in the distance goal. Like what you were saying.
Mm.
You're not thinking about trying to be the world's best straight away. You're just trying to incrementally get better and just
Yeah,
through practice.
and you've got to understand your pathway to get there too. If you want to be the best BMX rider in the world and you come and tell me that, and I say, well, how do you get there? And you don't know, well, then you don't know. You haven't done it properly.
Mm,
That's the wrong approach. You need to, if someone says, I want to be a world champion, okay, how? I don't know, just fight. No, that's wrong.
mm,
How do you want to be a world champion? You've got to be an international champion. Before that, you've got to be a national champion. Before that, you've got to be a state champion. Before that, you've got to have X amount of fights. You can clearly map that out, and then you see your path to becoming a world champion. But so many people stop or fail because they don't set this step, then goes to this step, then goes to this step, then this step. Like, because in Muay Thai, it's really linear. It's not very hard. You can really piece it out. A lot of other things can, like, there's obviously lots of parts. For Muay Thai, if you want to be a world champion, it's super linear, man. You can't, there's no, oh, I'll go this way and then I'll go that way. It's bang, 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 bang.
mm.
So maybe in a sport like BMX, there might be, different pathways to get there. But if you don't know them or you haven't laid them out and your goal is to be the best at this or the best at that, even if it's something as simple as that you've got to do 1,000 hours on that particular trick.
Mm.
Well, that means you have to do this many hours a year, this many hours a month, this many hours a week. And when you break it down like that, man, it's so much easier.
Yeah, so true. Like, I see, well, let's just say teeping the bag or whatever, or kneeing the bag, you guys just put reps and reps and reps in, and that's the exact thing. I think that's the whole thing with with BMX, is that it's like, you kind of almost want to be cool enough to never practice.
Sure, but most
I mean?
people can't, eh?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, we're kinesthetic. We have to learn it by doing.
Yeah.
You can't just, some of us come watch, sometimes you can, and you would know it. Those guys, and they'll watch someone do a trick and
Yeah,
they're
they're
like,
freaks. Yeah.
and they go, oh yeah, I reckon I can do that.
Mm,
And then they just go do it.
mm.
But not everyone is that,
No,
right? You've got to try it.
most people
You've got to
need
try it and
practice.
try it and try it and
That's
try it
right.
and then you do it. And then you do it again and do it again and do it again.
For
And yeah,
sure. Yeah,
reps,
yeah.
man. Reps is like so important.
Totally, man. Yeah. Hey, so like, what's going on for you with Muay U? Like, what do you, a lot of the thing with what you were saying about you don't want to see Muay Thai in the Olympics. Do you have a bit of a, like, you want to leave a bit of a legacy? You're just trying to, run the business. You seem to be
Yeah.
doing awesome. So,
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone the other day actually, and it was like I'm not really like legacy isn't really that important to me.
mm,
I know that sounds weird to some people, and it can sound like a bit odd to some people, but I like fulfillment for me doesn't come out of like legacy. I think legacy is just a byproduct of doing a good job.
yeah, that's
So
awesome.
I don't think about my legacy. I just think about doing a good job and helping people. Like for me personally, the thing that makes me usually feel the best just as like a human being is helping people. It not as much as like, everyone has something different and I'll never speak down on someone. If someone comes to me and goes, my number one thing is money, I'm like mad, legend. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm,
Someone comes to me, my number one thing is owning Ferrari and a Rolex and this, sick. I got actually no issue with that. But for me, that's not me. For me, like I get the biggest sense of fulfillment out of just helping people. Like it just makes me feel good.
yeah,
And so helping people achieve their goals in Muay Thai. And actually I've liked working with people in other sports and helping people in other sports too, because whether it's like mindset or the way that they look at things or whatever, I've really enjoyed that too, because I just enjoy helping people and
mm,
helping people achieve dreams and maybe things because there was a level of Muay Thai I never got to get to. And I want to give everyone the ability to get to that level. And if I can help you get to that level, well, then that's really cool. Like that makes me feel like that's a big achievement for me, If you win, I win sort of thing. And so for me, yeah, it's not for me like the legacy will just be a byproduct of that. Legacy will just be a part of that. And when I first started the gym, I used to have a bit of a chip on my shoulder and like I had to prove I can do it. I had to do. And then we got to a point, and it's like I said before, like I've had members in New York and they're like, oh wow, Muay U, like we know Muay U, or over here or there, or I've been overseas, man. Like had a girl fight in Mexico and I had like half a dozen Mexican guys like from Mexican gyms. Oh, I love your gym. Like
that's
that's
cool.
like beyond my wildest dreams of what I ever could have imagined. And so when I look at that, I'm like, oh well, that's sort of creating a legacy, man. That is sort of creating my own
Mm.
legacy. And it's just like I didn't intend to do that. It's just a byproduct of doing good.
Yeah, man, that's sick. Like, I definitely think it's important to just, if you're trying to do your best, you're trying to do good, like it kind of comes as a natural
Yeah, and
thing.
man, nothing against people that say they want to leave a legacy. I think
Mm.
that's really cool, but it's just I never really like I just never even really, I don't know, thought about it. Yeah, you want to be popular and well known and done whatever, but it just was never like, I never sat there like, oh, I want to leave a legacy because we also learn in Buddhism, like one of the biggest things is like that attachment is suffering and attachment to things is suffering, but that also means attachment to thoughts is suffering.
Mm.
And attachment is what makes us human, but also it is what makes us suffer. And, that can even be attachment to the thought of something.
Mm.
And so working with like having Buddhism in my life through that has really helped. And I still struggle with attachment really bad, as we all do. I've got my like two dogs sleeping over there. Fuck, I don't want to lose them, man. But I know when I do, it'll make me sad. That's
Mm.
the whole point of it. And what it's helped me with is things like, legacy and sort of even ego, because you get so attached to it. But I then similarly, I turn around and I'll say to people like, well, name me half a dozen world champions from the 80s.
Mm.
And no, people can't name them, mate.
Yeah.
They don't know. They can't name them. And I'm like, well, that wasn't that long ago.
Mm.
That was 30 or 40 years ago, you know?
Mm.
we are forgotten eventually. We are forgotten eventually, and you're not, there are plenty of people in the world who don't know who Donald Trump is. And that's crazy to think people don't know who Donald Trump is. Like there are people's universes and worlds where other people don't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you can't be known by everyone and forgotten by everyone. So that sort of way of thinking has like helped me heaps with
Yeah,
this. Yeah, helped me massively, man.
that's awesome, man. That's
Mm.
that's sick to have that perspective on stuff. It
I mean, I still want my guys to win.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I still
Yeah,
want to be
yeah.
the best. We're not fucking here to lose. Man. You can't use that as an excuse. Fuck
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
We're here to win,
Yeah,
man. We
yeah.
don't do this shit to lose. Don't do it to go half-ass. Do
Yeah.
it to be a fucking champion. But similarly, like you gotta
Totally. Yeah, you kind of just have
reality
to.
there. I don't think people should be in professional sport if you don't want to win.
That's
I
right.
hate people that are like, "Oh, I lost. It's all right." What do you mean it's all right?
Mhm.
Ah, man, come on, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the calendar look like for you for the rest of the I mean, a little bit less than 5 months, right?
Um, we've got we've got so Max's next fight in the RWS tournament, the RWS welterweight tournament will be next weekend. I'll be in Bangkok for that, so I leave on
Oh wow.
Wednesday to go to Bangkok for his next fight, and then he'll have his other one in September after that. I've got a trip to Abu Dhabi planned for later in the year. And even though I'm sure the event organizers probably don't listen to BMX podcasts, I'm not allowed to say even I don't reckon they listen to BMX podcasts, but I'm not allowed to say on that one. I've got a contract signed for that, so I can't say anything. I might have a cheeky little trip to Canada at some point this year too, which will be cool. I really like Canada. And then lots of domestic stuff, man. I really enjoy like the amateur competition, like the grassroots level stuff, man. I've like really been loving lately.
Sick.
And you know, I'm sure the same, like, and I know I keep saying X Games because I fucking don't know anything else in your world, but like I'm sure everyone wants to go and do stuff like the X Games and compete in that, but also like it's heaps of fun just going down and there's like a local of, like ones
Oh
like you
man, that's the sickest thing.
one like you run and everyone loves it, man, and everyone knows everyone and it's a cool local community and we got heaps of that as we always do.
For
So I
sure.
love it. Yeah.
That's sick. With Max's fight, that's pretty anticipated, right? That's with
It is. Yeah,
his.
yeah, yeah. So that's it's the fight has fallen through twice. So third time's a charm, man.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to watching that for sure, man.
Mm.
I yeah, before we go, I just wanted to, again like reiterate, like it's been sick to come into your gym and be a part of your world, be introduced to Muay Thai a little bit over a year ago, and now that we've moved up north to Bundaberg, we'll try and continue that journey. But no, it's sick, man. You're doing a really good thing with Muay U, and it's cool to see your passion really resonates through the gym. So yeah,
Thank you.
through your
Yeah,
fighters and whatnot. So it's sick, man. And
I'm gonna have to start going to now. I'm gonna have to start going to BMX competitions now, man. I can't have gone on this podcast and never have been to it. I'm gonna have to go. Your next one that you organise, I'll have to go to it.
yeah, dude. Yeah, early November if you're around,
All right.
come to it.
We're in Canberra.
In Canberra.
Done. Lock it in, man.
Sick,
I'm
man.
there. I'm there.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks heaps, Kieran, for coming on.
Pleasure. Thanks,
yeah,
man.
stoked to have you, dude. And it's look forward to seeing all the crew fighting and hopefully get back into Muay U for another session in
Thanks,
November.
Appreciate it.
Cool, mate. See you later.